What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday evening, and it's Clemson week for the Florida State Seminoles. We've got a lot of updates going into this one, including some score predictions at the end of the episode. A billionaire visiting Florida State this last weekend, one of the most important visits, most important recruiting visit ever, potentially, in program history for Florida State. We are going to do a deep dive into that. Also, too, we are going to talk about some injury updates that Mike Norvell gave earlier this afternoon. We're also going to talk some recruiting commits and multiple decommits. There's been a lot happening on the recruiting trail for Florida State as of this week. And then we are going to jump into a full preview between Florida State and Clemson. I'll be on the road there in Death Valley for that one. So after coming off of a win for Florida State, should be interesting to see what we see on Saturday night in a few days. And then we are going to talk about Luke Laux and the Florida State Seminoles starting off strong on the basketball court, 1-0, beating Alcorn State. Over 100 points. VZ is going to give us the full rundown on that debut game of Luke Laux. But with me this evening is Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief at NoleGameday.com, and over to the other side, our basketball man, Austin VZ. Gentlemen, I know, VZ, you're hyped up about that 1-0 game. I think it's just given us great momentum heading into Clemson night, baby, for the Florida State Seminoles and Mike Norvell.
Well, Florida State basketball plays before then, so I'm arguing it's giving them great momentum before the next basketball game. That's what I'm going to argue.
Yeah. We're all building off of momentum here, VZ. That's all it is.
But either way,
November.
It's Florida State Clemson week. I mean, rivalry week. I don't think if you would have told me back in August that whenever these two teams were meeting, one would have a below 500 record and the other one would be at 500. And, they're both really out of contention for an ACC championship appearance, and they're more fighting for a bowl game appearance. I mean, that's the biggest surprise to me going into this one.
Yeah.
They're combined 7-9. Like, if you just said that coming into the season, Florida State and Clemson, we had combined 7-9 going into this game. You're like, man, is it Florida State 0-7 or 0-8? Like, that's what your thought is. Because Clemson was just so highly thought of going into the season that the fall off they had is crazy.
To think that they're 3-5, gentlemen, 3-5 and 2-4 in ACC play, and I think one of the biggest things is they're just bad at home right now, really bad, and we'll talk a little bit further, of course, into that later on in this show. If you're here with us on YouTube, smack that like button. Also, as well, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. We've got a ton of content coming for you guys all throughout the rest of this week, including Saturday night. We'll do an instant reaction there on site in Death Valley after that game wraps up. But I wanted to jump over to you real quick, VZ, because we had not been able to, pick your brain on that win from Florida State. I know you guys, and I wasn't being cocky saying I picked Florida State to win. That was more, like I said at the time, very much of a hope. There was just that last little bit of hope I had, and they would have to play hard for Mike Norvell, and they sure did. You could see on the sideline that those guys are, trying to fight for their coach and putting a lot of the blame on themselves. What was your thoughts on that game and some of your biggest takeaways from a dominating win that the Seminoles put together?
Well, my first thought was it was a great day to be a stockholder in Sam Singleton Jr. Been pounding that table for 2 years, and it finally came to fruition. Saturday night, he looked great, honestly, because he's just so north and south, and he hits that hole in a hurry, and it worked to the tune of 91 yards. But you say dominating win, it didn't feel dominating. Like, I know the final score is 42-7, but a lot of Wake Forest mistakes got them there. Between a bad lateral, the bad snap that ended up being a fumble, Edwin Joseph forced another fumble at some point. It was a lot more Wake Forest mistakes than it was Florida State playing well. Now, don't get me wrong, like, a 42-7 win is impressive. You take that every day of the week and twice on Saturdays, but it just, in the moment while watching it, it didn't feel dominating, which is weird to say about a 35-point win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, especially early on in that, we know it was scoreless after the first quarter. Florida State's defense, I talked about on Monday, but I mean, they gave up some conversions on third down, some more of those quarterback scrambles. And then, like BZ said, I mean, Wake was just shooting itself in the foot. I mean, you had a 50-yard plus gain taken off the board by a holding penalty, a couple other plays that went for over 20 yards that were taken back for one reason or another. And then after that, I mean, it just felt like the penalties really took Wake Forest out of rhythm. And that was when Florida State was able to find itself and dominate for from really, I would say, the middle of the second quarter through the remainder of that game.
Well, it's like even by the time they got to the middle of the third quarter, once they got down 21-0, they were just going for it on every single fourth down. It was like the 35-yard line. Like, hey, we're going for it on fourth. Like, well, our offense stinks. Like, we don't have a choice. And they were just giving Florida State great field position, which is how the score really ramped up quick. Like, it went from 14-0 to 42-0 in I think like 8 minutes or something crazy like that. That was more field position than anything because Florida State only had to go 6 or 7 plays to score. So it didn't feel like a 42-point win, a game that should have really been a shutout. If not for Lucas Simmons blowing that block for Brock Glenn to get smoked. If not for that, I mean, we're talking about a spiked baseball.
Yeah, no, it was close to that, but yeah, Lucas Simmons was not able to get that block off the left tackle side. But like you said, Samuel Singleton, we've been very high on that young man, and don't know really. I mean, that room is loaded. I mean, shoot, we haven't even seen Cam Davis or heard of anything from the coaching staff about Cam Davis. He's always suited up and he's out there and he's in pregame warmups. He was out there in pregame warmups, right, D-Lou? I mean, I saw him.
He was dressed out.
This was his first game back. He's been dealing with something for a couple of weeks, along with Roy Dell. I mean, those two guys have just been banged up during the middle part of the season for whatever reason. And I think even with them getting back healthy, it's going to be kind of hard for them to get back into the rotation because you have established a good rhythm with Salchuk and Chroma and what he brings to the table. And then now seeing that breakout performance from Samuel Singleton, like you guys talked about, I mean, just so explosive there up the middle. I mean, he was hitting the hole at insane speeds and really showing off his athleticism. You got a nice three-headed horse right there, and then you can sprinkle in Jalen Lucas as well. So there are some real weapons in that backfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he has really strong vision as a running back, and he really relies on that offensive line, and he feels confident in that offensive line because he just goes. He just says, "All right, I'm going to go ahead and send it." But yeah, Deuce Robinson also had a really great game, strong performance from him, and it's going to be hard for Florida State to keep him for another season. I mean, with the amount of highlights that he's putting up and being Florida State's feels like at times their sole wide receiver on a Saturday day-to-day basis. You know, he's got such a strong opportunity to probably, if he wants to go to the next level and reach that pro status. But we'll get into some more stuff on him in just a minute. But I wanted to bring this up to you guys because it's the theme of the show this evening. But Florida State received a big-time visit during this Wake Forest game. This was probably some of the biggest news. We didn't know about this really until we started seeing some things later on earlier this week whenever Sarah Blakely, which if people don't really know of her, we'll give a rundown of her, but she is the Spanx founder, which is a massive, massive company for clothing wear, specifically for on the women's side. But she has a net worth of 1.1 to 1.3 billion dollaritos, ladies and gentlemen. And I know a lot of this FSU fan base had always wondered, well, what about, finding some of those alumni that could help, and certainly too, the new NIL game and just in the athletic department and finding, alumni that would be willing to help boost, your product. And she actually was invited from Florida State's administration to the game, along with her entire family that were there. And she was posting Instagram stories just a few days ago while she was on the field watching the game for the entirety of the first quarter. Also, too, after the game, they went into the locker room with her kids and everything and got to see Mike Norvell do his speech and also to break the rock down there in the locker room. This is a big visit. I mean, this was arguably, I would think, the most important recruiting visit that Florida State has had to put together in a long time. And she was having a good time. She posted a lot of stories and seemed like she enjoyed it. And she still is with Spanx. She actually sold a majority of her stake in 2021. She's still involved as the chief chairwoman and retains a good minority bit of ownership of Spanx and everything. But big affiliation with Florida State. She earned a bachelor's degree in communications in 1993. And yeah, man, this was big, man. It depends on where things go and such. I think they're trying to start building a relationship there, and I think it was important to, of course, bring her to a football game, of all things. Certainly in this time where Florida State is in sort of a financial struggle, depending on what they decide to do program wise and head coaching wise moving forward. But I think all along, though, they've been in the workings of trying to get this relationship a little bit stronger, because they are their biggest that I know of. The amount of, help that she could help on the financial side, this would be her with Sarah Blakely.
It's a good first step for Florida State for sure. And obviously, in this age of college athletics, I mean, money, revenue is everything. And Florida State has invested millions, hundreds of millions of dollars over the last couple of years, whether it's in the Doak Campbell Stadium renovations or the football only facility or Mike Norvell's new contract a couple of seasons ago, or the new assistant coaches that they just brought in, or just the cost it takes to now field a roster year by year, and then suing the ACC as well. So, I mean, a lot of money has come out from this program, and I mean, they can use everything that they can get at the moment. And like you mentioned, I mean, Sarah Blakely has a massive net worth. She grew a business on her own that turned into something pretty incredible, obviously, and has earned plenty of honors over the years. So, I mean, just to get her back on campus and to witness the renovations at Doak Campbell Stadium, because this is her first time back, since they did everything to the stadium, it's a big opportunity for Florida State, and just kind of got to see where things go from here.
Yeah, I'm not counting any chickens before they hatch, to be honest. I do think, yeah, you gotta be careful with something like this. I do think if she was to get involved, outstanding. It's also going to be huge for the women's programs on campus, because she's a huge supporter of those. I don't think anything's going to happen on the football side without something major happening for softball or women's soccer or something like that first, in my opinion. But yeah, this is a relationship you got to have. It just is. She's by far the wealthiest supporter you could have for Florida State. Now, yes, they have tons of football players and basketball players that have reached the next level, that have made hundreds of millions of dollars as well, that you would hope to be able to tap into as well. But, million is a lot different than a billion.
Definitely. And I mean, even if it's, not just beneficial to the football program, I mean, something that can enrich Florida State University as a whole is obviously very alluring. And, we've seen the academic prestige of the school continue to grow over the last couple of years. And then, you kind of pointed out, Austin, but I mean, women's sports as well. There's been a lot of success for Florida State, whether it's soccer or softball, and you've got lacrosse and that stadium being built now, and they're going to open play here pretty soon, the women's basketball program. So there's a lot of great things happening at Florida State.
Yeah, no, it's a good step in the right direction, just depending on what is going on behind the scenes. I know she's big there. I went through entrepreneurship at Florida State, and she has a lot of relationships there as well, and she's got a good one there, and she's worked with them plenty of times. But I think now on this other side, on the athletics side, I think they're just in the very early workings of that and building that, whatever that might be and where that could go. But I would imagine a lot of that would be predicated off first into those women's sports, like you gentlemen said. I saw earlier too a concept, I can't find it right now, but an FSU uniform instead of having a Nike logo.
I saw that.
You got Spanx, and it actually did not look bad. I'll be honest with you. It did not look.
It wasn't that Nike wasn't on there. It was just like, there's like, especially in the NBA now, you're seeing a lot with the sponsor jerseys. It was something like that where they just had the Spanx logo on on the collar.
Yeah,
I'm for it.
Yeah, you won't complain too much too when those checks come in. Absolutely not. Until I heard some things. Bobby Bowden Field at Spanx Stadium. Getting spanked at Spanx Stadium. That doesn't sound bad.
Well, it depends on who's.
Well, it just depends on what kind of context is going
seasons.
on, and never mind. Maybe not. Maybe the best idea. Definitely the student section after too much time at the strip. But no, I think it was big, and it seems like that was a good first step. We'll see if things go further there on that end. But ultra successful and what she's been able to do. She's very active on social media. So she is probably a little shocked by how many FSU fans and football nerds are currently following her now on social media, because I would imagine her women demographic on her social following is massive. So to see guys like me, and I saw Dustin, did you follow her on Instagram as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going for that LinkedIn connection as well. Just.
Are you leaving us to go to help out Spanx over there? Going to do some journalism for Spanx?
I'm open to all opportunities.
Hey, I would not blame you whatsoever. So something to keep an eye on, and I thought it was something interesting to bring up for this week's show. Let's keep moving on here, though. Deuce Robinson, I thought, put out a pretty strong quote, along with, as we've seen, a lot of the guys on the team right now giving their support to Mike Norvell, still riding with their guy, but he was previously on a show called Full Ride on the Sirius XM, and he gave some thoughts on Mike Norvell when asked about it. He said, "It's incredible how consistent he is able to stay. He is everything you could ask for in a head coach and in a father figure. The lessons we've learned from him, the response to adversity, how to handle ourselves in different situations, how to just love someone. He truly loves all of us. He's going to push all of us to be the very best we can be. I have the utmost respect and appreciation, and every single person on this team would say the exact same thing. We're all playing for him because he's been nothing short of spectacular for us, and he's put us in all the right positions to win. Those games we lost, it's just been on us. We just haven't executed." And that's been the theme of this new November thing. We've heard from Tommy Castellanos, and we've heard from Earl Little Jr. We've heard from a handful of players now really backing Mike Norvell and believing that the blame should be put on them and not their coaching staff. And worth noting as well, shout out to Deuce Robinson. He's been added to the Blintikoff Award watch list for the best wide receiver.
You might want to pronounce that again.
In the country. Blintikoff.
Close enough.
That was good. What are you talking about?
No, it was not.
That was good. That was really good, actually, to be honest with you.
Blintikoff.
No, that was not.
That's how you said it. That's how you said it.
No. Anyways, thoughts on that quote there from practically your biggest star on the team right now, and most productive.
I think it just shows Florida State's leaders. I mean, the veterans on this team, they are still behind Mike Norvell. They're bought in, and they want to show that publicly. It's. I don't think it's any surprise after a big win like that to have those guys come to the podium, and the first thing they do is go and back up Mike Norvell, because there's been a lot of chatter, obviously, ever since that Stanford defeat. And I mean, it was starting to grow before that as well, but to have that loss to Stanford, and then you went into the bye week, it was important for Florida State to come out and make that type of statement against Wake Forest to get a win like that. And then for the players to back Norvell after. And, these next 4 games, I mean, they're crucial, obviously, for Mike Norvell's future in Tallahassee. These players are going to keep fighting for him, and we'll see if that leads to positive results on the field, because this team, I mean, it's been a while now, but they did beat Alabama back on August 30th. Alabama hasn't lost since then, and I think we've seen when this Florida State team brings its best to the field, they can play against the best, but when they make too many mistakes, they can lose to a team like Stanford. It's a very volatile sport with where we're at in this day and age, where, I mean, any team can lose to any other team any given week of the season, depending on what happens in that specific game. And Florida State, to the players' credit, they've recognized that they have to execute better. I think the bye week was very good for Florida State to find some time to correct those mistakes, but then also to heal up a little bit. Me personally, I thought Florida State looked a lot more physical, a lot more explosive against Wake Forest than they did during that 4-game losing streak. And maybe some of that was due to the confidence of those losses starting to pile up. Maybe some of that was just due to health and being a little bit overworked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are definitely all possible, and especially in this ACC where Wake Forest just beat SMU, and then SMU beats Miami. Like, it's just a weird conference right now. But we saw the effort in that Stanford game. It was lackluster, to say the least. So, yeah, the players can say it was on them, and yeah, it's on them to an extent, but it's also on the coaches to get them motivated. Yeah. And it was the same thing we saw last season, and it's the same thing we saw in the first 2 seasons under Norvell. It takes more than just a few games to say, yeah, it's on us. You got to go and prove it by starting to win some of these last few games that a lot of people probably aren't expecting you to win.
Mm-hmm. Man, I fully agree with you there, VZ, because like you said, the Stanford game didn't look like they wanted to be out there. A lot of bad discipline as well. But yeah, you can put that blame on yourself, and I fully understand what they're saying, what they're doing, and that's very mature of them. But at the end of the day, that goes on your coaching staff 110%. And it goes to the blame of the head coach because he is running that program for you. And there's too much of this roller coaster ride with Mike Norvell like we've seen the last couple of years. I mean, that just is unacceptable to have as a head coach. And I fully agree with you. And that's, it's great to hear this. And, Tommy's throwing out this new November thing, that theme there. And, I think that's you got to take those for positives. You got to hope, that mentality that they had going into that Stanford game, and Stanford going into the Alabama game, where they felt like they were the major underdog. Nobody in the country at all predicted them to win. None of us on here predicted Florida State to pull off that upset. And I'm sure they were hearing all about that. They need to have that same mentality every single week. And you got to hope that that's what they had against, Wake Forest there. And they certainly did there in that second half, where things just started clicking and it felt like that offense was unstoppable, like we had seen in those first 3 games for Florida State to begin the season. I think the biggest thing, and I was just thinking about this earlier, FSU hurt themselves with dominating and beating Alabama, man, because we put that bar so high up there for Florida State. We put them up there to, wow, oh my goodness gracious, this could be a potential ACC championship team. Could this be a team that reaches the college football playoff? That's exactly what we did, and they did that to themselves as well, but forgot that, hey, man, this team went 2-10 last year, and there's a lot of new parts here. There's 2 new coordinators, a whole new roster. You got to keep that same mentality going in and week to week. And, they showed up, didn't want to play against Stanford, and they got their ass beat by backups. And I think that was a major wake-up call for that entire team. It is a major positive, though, to see that this team is backing their head coach. I think that's huge, and it's being said from your biggest leaders, which Florida State had none of last year. No, but they had no leaders. Florida State had nobody offensively, defensively, they had no leadership. And it was all on the reins of the coaching staff. But winning teams have leading players that lead their teams to wins. And Florida State didn't have that last year. They have that this year, and that's going to help them for the remainder of these games.
And you got to think, when the losses started piling up last year, I mean, it was pretty hopeless for Florida State. You kind of knew going into each Saturday that this team's probably going to lose, and they're probably going to lose big. And even this 4-game losing streak for FSU this year, it was all 1-possession games. I know we started to see the signs of quit against Stanford, but to see them respond the way they did against Wake Forest, they never did that last year whenever those losses started piling up. They beat Charleston Southern in the middle of it. Who cares? But with what they're doing now, we'll see if they can keep climbing out of this hole. But, I didn't really feel any positive signs when the losses started piling up a season ago. And there's still something to salvage out of 2025 when you remember what this year was supposed to be whenever we came into it before that Alabama win.
Beezy, before we move on, Dustin and I were discussing it on Monday. There's a potential where, I think you predicted 5 wins. Me and Dustin both were at 6-6 for this upcoming season. And that's when I go back to, hey, Florida State beat Alabama. So our expectations immediately rose along with the fan base. There's a chance where Florida State still can reach that. And we still would have predicted. It depends on you. I don't know if your 5 wins when you predicted it, if you thought that Mike Norvell would still be here. I would imagine that you probably thought that maybe Mike Norvell would be there. I know Dustin and I think said, yeah, you probably keep him because you have two new coordinators, whole new team. But there's still a chance there. That is very well an opportunity, definitely, if they go in and win in Death Valley on Saturday. Then you're like, okay, this team could win 7-8 games in the season. And you're like, whoa, okay. Where are you at if, Florida State does win this game and then moving forward, does that change your stance on Mike Norvell any? It just seems to be that stain of Stanford. It's the stain of Stanford at this point that's hurting.
Yeah, and part of it is I think no matter win or lose, the talent pool for coaches is just too shallow for right now for how deep of a market it is.
Yeah.
There's so many jobs open now, and they're going to keep open. Like, does Florida State really want to open their job and be the 5th best job, 6th best job, when in most other coaching hires they're like 2nd? Like, there's too many good jobs, and there's just not enough good coaches out there right now. I don't think they want to throw their hat in that ring right now. I I don't think this game is going to make an impact either way on that. Now, if he loses out, then yeah, you've absolutely got to have that conversation. But if they split him and go 2-2, then I think he's probably back another year.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting one this upcoming weekend. Let's do a quick update here on some injury stuff. We'll have a full injury report tomorrow night when that comes through. But Mike did give some comments on a few players, including former starting wide receiver Javon Boggs, true freshman wide receiver, who was a star there in the spring and fall. And then also to Stephon Thompson. These two guys are going to be monitored, mainly going to be predicated on how they look in tomorrow's practice to see if they are going to be available to play this upcoming weekend. And, I think, we talked about it on Monday, Dustin. It's been relied heavily on Deuce Robinson. You're hoping that you could see Squirrel White, who was one of your biggest transfers, make an impact for you. And there's, they've tried to take shots with him, but there's not really anything outside of just one or two shots deep. I'm kind of shocked that, Gus has not tried to do other things with Squirrel White because he can be used in intermediate routes. But that's just not the flow of what this offense wants to do. And LaWayne McCoy, is still trying to find his groove. And when he's out there, and Tommy and them try to connect, things are either on or off. Everything's relied on Deuce Robinson, but it would be great to, hopefully see, what if Javon Boggs had come back from that injury that he suffered. It feels like, God, forever now that he's been dealing with.
Ever since that Kent State game.
Yeah.
It's been a while. He tried to play through it. Had a little bit of a setback during the bye week, which caused him to miss the game against Wake Forest. And Florida State, they need to get something out of these wide receivers, man. I know Deuce Robinson is making every play that he possibly can out there, and you're seeing Mekhi Danzy come in with some huge plays in basically every game now. But besides that, it's just been very inconsistent from the rest of those guys. LaWayne McCoy had a solid outing against Miami, been a little bit quiet since then. And I really wonder, in the case of Squirrel, is he just more banged up than Florida State is letting on at this point? Because he's been injured since obviously very early in the season, trying to work through it. Just can't get his groove, man. And it stinks because Florida State, they were banking on him with what he did at Tennessee. An experienced playmaker, but he got banged up last year at Tennessee. And now that's kind of lingered over to his time at Florida State. He just can't shake off the injury bug.
I got to bring this up because it's so much fun. I don't like hiding from all this silly stuff. But we got a YouTube comment on here. Fire his sorry ass, but you got fans like these fools making excuses.
None of us on here think he's the answer. It's just not realistic.
Yeah. It's not realistic, brother. Who are you going to go after head coach right now? Who? You give you the list and we'll go and tell you that that's not happening. I don't know who you're going to find right now. I really don't. That's why, I have conversations with friends and such. And like, who are you going to go after, man? And also, too, what money package are you going to give to a head coach like that? And who also is going to excite some of those big boosters, the ones that have all that money for you? What is going to get the fan base riled up to get you excited for going into 2026? You're on the road at Alabama to begin the season. What you going to do? And I understand, too, the season as it is for Florida State with Mike right now, it's not phenomenal, but financially, that is your burden that you're having to deal with. It so happens to be that a lot of big-time teams across the country are looking for new head coaches as well. That's the issue, man. There ain't no excuses here. We're just lining out, could Mike win these games? Yeah, that probably means that Florida State keeps them. I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know where else you got to say there. Name the coaches, please.
For every guy FSU wants. Auburn, LSU, Penn State, UF, whoever else. They're all involved as well. So,
yeah, one of them being big time in your state with UF. That has a lot more opportunity bread wise than you do at the moment. But that's kind of the thing. Just Florida State's in a brutal spot right now. They're in a really, really bad spot. But
one thing that SEC would be huge because you could maybe compete with those. But when you're going against Penn State, Florida, Auburn, LSU, Arkansas, who has crazy money boosters, like you're just not going to be competing money wise.
And you got to shelve out $59 million before
he said go after Heartline. Oh my God.
There you go. That That does make sense.
No.
What do you mean? Go after Heartline, who has not had any head coaching experience. So you want to see this fan base take that on? You can get you a couple wide receivers. That's just fine.
He can recruit. Fine, but no, that's not what Florida State's going to be looking for if they're hiring a coach. Or
only if Jeremiah Smith is attached to the head.
Someone $80 million to go away. Like
Mm-hmm.
or I guess 60. Sorry, not 80. 60. Mm-hmm. It's just not no.
It's just not happening. Just not happening. All right, let's go over and make our sleeper picks. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this episode and partnering with us all throughout the season. Gentlemen, we actually get to make some picks between Florida State and Clemson on Saturday night, and we got to jump into these numbers real quick. Damn, they got Tommy at 244 more there in the passing department. I mean, he's been slinging it, and that defense for Clemson has not looked pretty whatsoever.
Well, they do have one amazing corner. Avion Terrell is that guy.
They're going to bring that. Yeah, that's going to be a battle to watch, which I'm really excited for. We'll get to that preview in a minute, but that's going to be fun. Deuce on him. That's
going to be a lot of fun.
But Clemson is coming off a game where they gave up a season high 361 passing yards.
Woo! Goodness gracious.
And 4 games this season where they've allowed over 300 yards through the air. So definitely potential for Florida State to take and connect on some of those big shots. And, I mean, you saw it with some of those catches from Deuce last week. Mekhi Danzy, seems like every week he gets at least one of those 40, 50-yard gains. It's a Clemson secondary that struggled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Samuel Singleton. Who do we have here for a touchdown, man? We got a plethora of guys to go through and pick from. Randy Pittman. We got Deuce Robinson, which, I mean, that's not bad for Moore. 2 times 3-3. That's not
I don't know
bad.
about you guys. All reliable for me, Salchuk.
I like Salchuk as well.
Yeah. All right. We stick with Salchuk there. Certainly 2 physical game. Definitely going to be that. So I like that pick there. What about the rush yards do we have on? I don't know if it actually has that on here for this game. I was hoping that there'd be some rush yards, maybe a steal for Singleton, but we don't have that. A lot of these are just touchdowns. Uh-oh. Where'd that go?
Good job. You killed it.
It disconnected. Who's scoring a touchdown out? Who else?
It's hard to predict Florida State's rushing game, with how it's been. Salchuk leading the way for a little bit, and then coming out of the bye week, Samuel Singleton Jr. is the guy getting carries, and Chroma's getting sprinkled in there. Got any? Kind of like Tommy at 244.5.
I don't know, man.
It's risky, but it's not bad though. It's not bad. I wish you could do alts. I mean, 244.5.
He did get 271 versus Wake, but I don't know, man.
It's a bad defense, man. They're going to take shots with Deuce and Mekhi. I can ride with that. Let's just put it in there because we don't have a lot of options here on this game, to be honest with you. What is it? INT. Okay, we can't do Tommy there.
Klubnik 287.
Do you see that happening? I mean, it depends on Florida State's pass rush if he can get back there enough consistently.
His
James
last
Williams, baby. Where's James Williams anytime sack?
Okay. His Klubnik's last 4 games yardage wise, 363, 254, 280, 385. Like he's been slinging the rock the last few weeks.
And I mean, they are kind of relying on the passing game a ton. The running game hasn't been extremely productive for them. But they did just recently lose their leading receiver for the rest of the season, Bryant Wesco.
True.
Like 287. Florida State's defense just gave up 7 points.
Let's less it, baby. Florida State's defense, Tony White, they're feeling themselves right now. They're feeling that high. They're going to bring that high. I think they play strong. I say we ride with the less there. A defensive back room. Dude, it would be great to see Florida State's pass rush get back there and make an impact, because we saw what that did. Just a little bit there from the trenches impacted that talented defensive back room that Florida State does have. And, they're able to make some plays, give themselves some shorten those plays that Wake Forest was trying to give also to Wake Forest quarterback. Nothing pretty there from both of them, actually. But That's not bad. I mean, those are 3 picks. We've got Gavin Sawchuk anytime. We don't want to do Singleton. You don't break one open in the red zone. The way that he just played, I think they're going to give this man some more opportunities.
It's tough to say. I have no idea what they're going to do with that running back room.
It's one of those I just have no idea.
It's 2.38 times.
But I do know Sawchuk. He's going to get some carries down there.
Yeah, they seem to like Sawchuk and Holmes down near the red zone more, or goal line more.
We'll keep it as this, and honorable mention. God, why does it keep doing that? Come on, StreamYard, get us right. But here's our 3 picks. We got Gavin Sawchuk. We also got Tommy Castellanos with the more of 244.5 in passing yards, and then we got Cade Klubnik with the less on 287.5.
Please, Tony White, please.
Come through for us, Tony. Please come through. Let's make sure we don't have any promos. No, got some basketball ones. Can we use this? 3+ picks. Bang. Can we use that? Bang. Yes, we can. Shout out to Sleeper, man. Great app, easy to use. That's our picks right there for this week between Florida State and Clemson. If you guys want to, you can see the code down below. Use Noles, N-O-L-E-S. Get a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. Their app is great. I get updates also too all throughout the day because I follow NFL, work on the NFL down here with the Bucs and also the Washington Commanders. I get updates all throughout the week and notifications on everything. Also too, Sleeper is great for fantasy as well. So make sure you guys go check that out. Use promo code Noles, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. D-Lou, we've got some decommitments, but we've got some commitments. Where do we want to start here? Good or bad? Do we want to start on the good, or do we want to go with the bad first? What are we feeling?
Guess we can start with the good since that happened first.
3 commits. Okay, we'll start off there. We'll go through it smoothly. I'll start off with who actually committed real quick.
Very smooth. Very smooth.
It's working smoothly.
As smooth as possible.
We got 3 stars to talk about. Come on, dial in. Get crazy. Anyways, I believe this was on Tuesday morning. 3-star defensive lineman Franklin Whitley committed to Florida State. He actually had offers from Clemson, South Carolina, and then also to Florida State landed 3-star defensive end Chris Carbon and 3-star linebacker Dalen Green, adding to that 2026 class.
Yeah, Carbon hopped on board on Sunday, like you said, and he had previously been committed to Georgia Tech and then decommitted in October to kind of explore his options, was at Florida State for an official visit shortly after that, and named a top 3 of Georgia Tech, FSU, and Auburn. I personally thought at the time he might end up back with Georgia Tech just because that seemed like more of the stable option at the time. And, Auburn obviously fires their head coach. Florida State had some uncertainty and then is able to get that win over Wake Forest. And, it seemed like that told Carbon everything he needed to know, and he decides to hop on board, the first defensive end for Florida State in Tribe 26, and they needed one. And Carbon is in the middle of a pretty solid senior season, and we'll see how he's able to develop once he gets to campus. Then going over to Dalen Green, this guy's actually a local product out of Gadsden County High School, was trending to Florida State over the summer, then kind of made a little bit of a surprising commitment to Arkansas, coming off an official visit over there. Florida State stayed in touch since then. And then now, with Arkansas obviously firing their head coach a couple of weeks ago, Dalen Green reopened his recruitment. Florida State kept that relationship, and then they're able to bring him into the class. And this is a guy, a versatile defender. He's got the potential to play linebacker or safety at the college level. So we'll see where he fits in once he gets to campus in a couple of months. And then Franklin Whitley, another late bloomer here, a guy who's having a solid senior season, and that's had some Power 4 programs jump into contention for him, including Clemson, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. And Florida State hosted him for an official visit in October, and then he decided to pull the trigger yesterday, choosing the Seminoles over those in-state schools because this guy's actually out of South Carolina, so he commits to FSU over Clemson and the Gamecocks. So, some 3-star additions, but Florida State doing all it can on the recruiting front right now, even with some of the instability in Tallahassee.
Yep. Still trying to make sure that class can stay strong and finish off as well, because it starts getting really busy here because of that deadline there at the end of the season. It's a tricky last month of the season for Florida State, not only on the field, but what they want to do recruiting wise. But yeah, and then the two decommitments that Florida State had, including just a little bit ago before we went live, actually.
Literally. Yeah. Yesterday on Tuesday, you had longtime Florida State defensive back commitment, 4-star safety Tadarius Hughes, flip from the Seminoles to Syracuse. And this is a guy who originally committed to FSU back on July 4th, 2024. So, he stuck with FSU through the entirety of that 2-10 campaign last year. Began to gain more interest from other programs, and Syracuse was one that was involved in his original decision back in 2024. But other programs began to turn up the heat this offseason, and he took a couple of visits elsewhere. I think he's been to Nebraska along with Syracuse, and he's been back to Florida State a couple of times. But the Orange really just pushing here. He's a teammate at Miami Northwestern with 5-star wide receiver and Syracuse commit Calvin Russell. So it seems like maybe Russell got in his ear. And then Fran Brown, obviously, has shown some recruiting chops so far in his 2 seasons at Syracuse. It is a little surprising to me, though, to see a guy who's been committed to Florida State for over a year go ahead and flip to a 3-6 Syracuse program. So that was a little shocking.
The only thing I'll say is, y'all know I don't follow recruiting at all. When I saw his flipment and it was him like flashing 100s and the watch, and then he said, like, he commented someone else on Twitter going, "This watch costs more than your house." I'm like, all right, we're good. I don't need that.
And then the other one right before we hopped on the show, 3-star defensive lineman Tico Crittenton backed off his commitment to Florida State. There's a guy who's projected to play alongside the defensive interior at the next level, and that's obviously a spot where Florida State has a ton of talent at the moment. So this seems maybe more of a mutual parting of ways more than anything, but regardless, it's another guy off Florida State's commitment list. And whenever they got that pledge from Tico a couple of months ago, this was a guy who they had evaluated, and they really liked the fit that he was bringing to Tribe 26 at the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's some decommitments, but some commitments as well. All right. Let's jump into this preview between Florida State and Clemson. This game is at 7 o'clock, right? That's at 7 o'clock. We were making sure we got that double
7 o'clock. ACC Network, not ESPN. ACC Network.
ACC Network. I hate you, YouTube TV and Disney. Stupid Mickey Mouse still screwing us there on being able to watch this. But luckily, going to be in person for this one. Florida State, though, just coming off of a big win against Wake Forest. But, man, the Clemson Tigers having a rough blow in these last couple of games, losing to SMU a few weeks ago, and then their last game, losing to Duke 46-45. That defense was just not there at all. Dabo Swinney going crazy on the sideline, calling out his defensive side of the ball. They are 2-4 in conference play and currently 3-5 on their record. Dabo Swinney did give some comments about Florida State and that offense for Gus Malzahn. He said offensively, they're number 1 in total offense in the country. They're explosive, and it all starts with their quarterback scoring 40 points a game and 500-something yards a game. Gus Malzahn does a great job. I've obviously known Gus a long time, been against him many times, and I've always had a lot of respect for how he puts it together. He's very committed to running the football. They're 8th in the country in rush offense, and anytime he's got a quarterback to run the system, they're a problem. They do a good job as far as the scheme and how they formation, a lot of motions, a lot of eye candy. There's going to be 7 or 8 shots. There's going to be 3 or 4 reverses. There's going to be a bunch of screens. You kind of know what's coming, but it's hard to defend. What are y'all's thoughts on this current state of Clemson? I know we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but now we get to deep dive into what is going on with the Tigers. And still, nonetheless, though, Florida State and Clemson will get ready for this game, and sure will Dabo. He will make sure that is very important because, man, it just seems like he kind of either wants to get out of there, wants to get fired almost.
It's
like
been
something
so
just
weird.
weird is going on there with him and his administration at the moment.
Starting to feel like a little bit of a Jimbo Fisher situation there, but it's
Mhm.
been a really
Yeah.
weird season for Clemson. I mean, I'm really befuddled of how they've gotten to this point. Because this is a team, the reigning ACC champions, made the college football playoff less than a year ago, and they returned so much production on both sides of the ball. I think around
It was
80% or
80%. Yeah.
something crazy like that. And they've got Cade Klubnik back, a veteran quarterback who has proved himself at the college level. They've got some guys on defense who are still going to be first-round picks whenever the 2026 NFL draft rolls around in April. It's been really surprising to see the way that this team has played, considering the amount of experience back. It's not clicking for whatever reason, and I don't know. I thought they would figure it out. With some of those early struggles against LSU and Troy, and then they had that Syracuse game. Obviously, I was like, all right, at some point, Dabo and Clemson, they're going to get back on the right track, because that's what that program has always done, but it hasn't happened so far. And then even last week, I mean, you put up 45 points and you still lose to Duke because you gave up 46. Really weird year in Clemson. It's not something that's happened under Dabo Swinney. They've only had one losing record in his tenure as a head coach, and that was back in 2010, 15 years ago. So this isn't something you see from the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more strange team in the country, because again, they made the college football playoff last year, won the ACC, and now you're looking at it a weekend in November going, are they going to even make a bowl game with all of this returning production? It truly makes no sense. There's people like, I'll say it myself, I thought they were winning the national championship. With all that production coming back, there's no reason they shouldn't. And now they're 3-5, and they still have to play Florida State, Louisville, and South Carolina to close the season. None of those are guaranteed wins for them. I have never seen a better example of a stoppable object meets a movable force, because Florida State has yet to win on the road, and Clemson has one win at home this year. They were 1-4, and that one win was against Troy, a game they were close to losing.
Yeah.
Way closer than anyone should be.
That's when you first started seeing the signs. Something was up a little bit.
Yeah. So this is, who knows how this game is going to go. I truthfully have no idea. I've been thinking about it for the last 24 hours while I've been writing the preview. I'm like, I still don't know where I'm going.
That's this current state of FSU. That's why, and
Clemson, like, it's both teams.
It's for this one specifically. It's like, what is going to happen? And then, even last week where Wake Forest just was highly undisciplined and couldn't get anything going against Florida State's defense, which had shown signs of just blech, just crap. This ACC is just insane, and that's why it's going to bring in a ton of viewership on Saturday, because nonetheless, Florida State Clemson, it's going to bring in ratings, but you just don't know what is actually going to happen between these two teams. It's very odd, so much talent. It's not clicking in a lot of different areas, and it's been very inconsistent for both teams. It's a roller coaster ride, but right now, Clemson's coming off 2 losses. It depends on what kind of team wants to show up. And a Saturday night in Death Valley. I mean, we were there for that Clemson game 2 years ago in 2023. And that went all the way into overtime there. And that was, I would say a national championship caliber team that Florida State had out there with a healthy Jordan Travis and Keon Coleman, Johnny. And that defense, as we know, was a championship caliber team. But that went all the way into overtime. That was a noon kick as well. Mm-hmm. And those fans showed up. So this is not going to be an easy place to play whatsoever. Clemson fans will be there. But I will tell you what, the key right here, man, FSU could put this game away early. And it sounds, it's easy to say and whatever, but if you start off early, put some points up, which Florida State's offense can do when they get a groove going there and Tommy's hot, these fans ain't going to be in the stands for much longer. They are fed up with it. They are done with Dabo, and they are pissed.
Where's Tyler from Spartanburg? Where's he at these days?
Dude, you saw better attendance in Doe Campbell Stadium, and I thought that was a better, more of a pro Norvell environment that I didn't imagine. I think the bye week helped a little bit to allow people just to cool down a tiny bit, but these Clemson fans, definitely with the expectations like we were talking about that they're going to have going into the season, they are pissed off. And I don't think if Florida State scores early and are able to put up some points, I don't think you have to worry too much about that environment in Death Valley Saturday night.
And it just seems like they have the yips a little bit at home, whenever they face a moment of adversity, or like you mentioned, Logan, get behind on the scoreboard and the silence or the boos start adding up from the fans. They just put a lot of pressure on themselves and then just kind of melt down a little bit. That's what we've seen in these losses for Clemson, whether it's, turnovers on offense or giving up big plays on defense. It just hasn't been that traditional Clemson Tiger team that we've seen for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, it's a weird, like I said, I don't think there's any weirder team in the country. And especially with all the Dabo quotes, it's like, just fire me. I'll go somewhere else and win games. Like, you don't hear coaches saying that when things are going well. I've never seen weirder vibes. It is so crazy there. I think Florida State's really going to have to get after Klubnik because Clemson can't run the ball. Like, Adam Randall's been okay, but they clearly don't trust him as a running back. And then outside of him, that running game is just not great. They're averaging 50 yards per game less on the ground than they were last year. Granted, they had Phil Maffa last year. Phil Maffa was a dude. They don't really have that this year, and they clearly don't trust it. So I think it's really going to rely on getting after Klubnik, who has thrown 3 picks this year while being pressured and is only completing like 40% of his passes when pressured. That's going to be the biggest key more than anything.
Yeah, send some packages, man. Send some blitzes, send some DBs at him, send some linebackers flying, rat him a little bit because, he's outside of these last couple of games, he's found a little bit of a groove there. But man, earlier in the season, there were some throws that I'm like, woo!
He almost got benched a few times.
Yeah, I mean, it looked awful. I mean, he was playing very, very poorly. I'm very interested to see what Tony White wants to do here. We heard from a few of the players after that Wake Forest game and said, they feel like they're finding where they need to be and finding that confidence on the defensive side. Like, things are starting to click a little bit. And that was one question that we all had, because when you have 2 new coordinators, which side of the ball is going to get used to this new system earlier? And it definitely wasn't on the defensive side outside of those first couple of games. But I think, too, that helped a lot when Alabama was going to that game. And I don't think they expect for Florida State to show up the way that they did. They definitely had 2-10 in their minds going into the game. They did not expect for this to be fighting dogs that wanted to just come after you like they did. And that's what you want to see again. Like you just said, VZ, find pressure. Make sure your guys are doing what they need to do in the trenches. Dabo also mentioned, too, speaking of the trenches, he talked about on that defensive side with Darrell Jackson. He noted number 6 is something to watch out for. He also talked about Tommy Castellanos on the offensive side of the ball, saying number 1 for them is a great football player. I think he's a great competitor. I thought that when he was at Boston College. I've just always admired his game. He's a very good thrower. He could push the ball down the field, and he's just a creator. He can create explosives, not only with his arm, but he also can create explosives with his patience, sitting there and holding onto the ball, but also his ability to scramble and to create. So Dabo knows that it's going to not be an easy time for their defense, which has struggled the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, going back to VZ's point, I think turnovers are the quickest way for Florida State to flip a game like this on the road in a tough environment. And like you guys mentioned, Klubnik has thrown some interceptions, and Clemson, I mean, they've lost 7 fumbles this season, which ranks among the worst in the country, 119th in the FBS. Florida State coming off a game where they just forced 3 fumbles, recovered 1 for the first time over a year, and were able to get an interception under their belt as well. Yeah. So I think coming into this game, if Tony White's defense can force a couple of turnovers, I mean, that's obviously going to put the Seminoles in a big position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's needed. It's very much needed. And we'll see how this defense decides to play. But I think it's time for some score predictions. And I actually have mine set in stone here. I don't know who's going first. I don't know where.
I think it's me.
I think you're in the middle, and it's up to you, D-Lou, to begin us. Are you going to pick Florida State to win, or are you going to pick them to lose? Now it's time.
It's a tough game to pick. I tell you that. I mean, Florida State coming off that performance against Wake, where they score 40-plus points against an ACC opponent for the first time in 2 years, which was also against Wake. And then Clemson last week putting up a season-high 45 points, but then giving up 46 points in the process. It's really weird. I mean, 2 teams that have had some crazy paths throughout the 2025 season. Obviously, for me, Florida State struggles on the road. I mean, they've been pretty vast, whether it's that loss to Virginia where they had some really bad turnovers and the defense gave up 46 points in a double overtime loss, or then you go to Stanford where you're shooting yourself in the foot with penalties, and even though you put up 400 yards of offense, you only get 13 points. So I think, looking at how Florida State has performed on the road, I'm just not quite comfortable picking them in this environment, which is going to be pretty crazy there in Death Valley, as we've talked about. Also a little bit of a reverse jinx from me, because I picked Florida State to win in all 4 of the games they lost. I picked them to lose last week, and then they won. So I'm going to roll with that again. I've got Clemson in this one in a close one. Tigers 31, Seminoles 28.
Oh my goodness gracious. Woo-hoo-hoo. We are close, D-Lou. We are close. I'll go VZ. I have optimism about this one. I don't know what it is. I think Florida State starts off quick in this game, and I do have them winning in this one. On the road, I actually have it Florida State 31, and then the Clemson Tigers 27. So we're very close, just flipped there on the money line, D-Lou. Very close and similar. But it's going to come down to working quick. I would like to see, a lot of action of some Randy Pittman in this one. I think that fits what you want to have, fits the mold of physicality that you want, and you want help in the passing game to allow for Deuce Robinson to do what he does best. And that secondary, I know they have a star there at cornerback, but man, they're getting eaten alive in the secondary. And I think Tommy had one of his stronger games on air and took care of the ball well too. And if they can get that running game going with Samuel Singleton and break open some explosive plays, you don't want to have Tommy Castellanos throwing 30 balls, 25 balls even, in that 20, 22 range, 23 range. Let that offensive line do its work and eat up that defense that's been playing bad for the Clemson Tigers. But it's going to be key to take away that environment that, like you guys said, has not been great on the road for Florida State this year.
If this was the NFL, I am so serious. I would pick this game to be a tie, because I have no idea where this game is going. I don't think there's a single result that could surprise me with how these two teams have played this year. I think it's going to be a weird game. I think it's going to be kind of lower scoring than some people are expecting. I don't know why, just kind of a gut feeling. I'm going to take Clemson 24, Florida State 23, with Florida State missing a 2-point conversion at the end to lose the game.
God,
trying to make up for the Virginia game, and it still doesn't work. Yeah. I don't know how this is going to go. I just don't. So might as well throw something on a wall, see if it sticks.
That's like a heartbreaker there. That's like fucking just rip your heart out right there, VZ. Jeez, man.
Sorry.
Unbelievable. You got Luke Laux goes 1-0 in basketball, and he's just fully turned on it. Well, the Mavericks are also awful, so he's in a bad.
And the Vikings are whatever. Big win Sunday, but
there you go. Yep. See how consistent your quarterback can be after that. But yeah. So this is giving me a chance, I must say. If Florida State does win this game, you're allowing me to get the chance of taking the lead overall with this group and the win and loss.
Go ahead.
And I had to do this. But I still have the gut feeling like I had against Wake Forest. We'll see if they decide not to do so, but should be a really fun game. We'll have full coverage of that also too. Make sure you stay tuned for our instant reaction that we'll have after the game as well, after we get done with Mike Norvell and player interviews. But before we get out of here, we got to talk about Luke Laux starting off the season.
Hell yeah, we do.
1-0, putting up 100+ on them against Alcorn State, 108-76. I didn't get to be able to watch the game because of YouTube TV and all this BS. Couldn't find a stream till later, but VZ obviously was watching and tuned in, had some highlights posted on his Twitter. What was your instant takeaways from this team in game one?
Well, first of all, I feel like I got to return the shout out. So shout out Aria for giving me a shout out during the broadcast. That's crazy. Your favorite basketball guys aren't getting shout outs.
Dope.
I am. Dope. So just saying.
Damn. He's feeling himself right now. Yeah. Don't let him feel. Aria's got to chill on that. If I see him
little too cocky now.
Yeah.
No, but it was the offense was exactly what we expected, and it wasn't even as fast as we even thought it would be. I think they ended up getting 72 or 73 possessions, but they put up 108 points for 1.5 points per possession, which is absurd. Florida State just doesn't do that in the last 23 years. They shot the ball well from three. They were 13 of 30, which is well above 40%. You were perfect there. The defense had its issues. Granted, Alcorn State was just hitting shots in the first half that you're like, okay, they made a long contested too. We live with that. But they made, 5 or 6 of them. So it ended up being a little bit closer, especially in the first half, than I think some people expected. But at the end of the day, you won by 32. That's you live with that. Overall, definitely mostly pleased. Robert McRae, I can't believe I haven't said his name yet. FSU record 17 assists in his first game in a Florida State jersey. How about that? The 9th most assists in a game in ACC history in your first game is just unbelievable. He almost doubled his previous career high in assists, which was 9. That's how good of a game he had passing the ball. Florida State really didn't turn the ball over. I think they only had a turnover rate in this game of 10 or 11%, which with the pace they play at and the hecticness they play at, amazing. Chauncey Wiggins, career high 22 points in his first game as a Seminole when he spent 3 years at Clemson. Gotta love what you saw out of him. Kobe McGee was Kobe McGee, just super solid. Cam Miles is electric. He's just such a fun freshman to watch. And then Leger Jones is just an awesome player to watch. Just does a little bit of everything. Super smooth shooting stroke. Had a few dunks that kind of got me out of my seat a little bit. It's a fun team. It's not going to be a great defensive team, but they're going to be so much fun to watch on offense, which we've been begging for 5-6 years now.
That's going to put butts in the stands in the tuck. I'll tell you that.
They need it because it was not a great showing on Tuesday night for the fans.
Damn.
But hopefully that'll be better for Friday against Alabama State. And I guess we will talk to you before the Florida game next Tuesday. That's going to be it's going to be an interesting one because those are 2 completely different styles of play. With Florida's got basically 3 power forwards that they start, and Florida State's like, what's a big? Like they just don't want to play bigs. They want to space the floor with a lot of shooting. And Florida's got Tommy Hawk playing 3, and he's a power forward. So that's going to be a really interesting game. I don't expect Florida State to win it, but it's going to be really interesting. We'll talk more about that sometime either this weekend or next week.
And it's huge just for Florida State to have a true point guard again. I mean, like you said, 17 assists for Robert McRae. Every other player in the game combined, Alcorn State and Florida State, 18 assists. So that is just insane. And I think he was the first Florida State player to have 12 or more assists in a game
since Laux.
Since Luke Laux in the 2012 ACC championship game where Florida State won its first conference championship tournament. So, man, coming full circle, and now Luke Laux's first game as a head coach. Pretty crazy. And
it's not just him. Like, Cam Miles was awesome. Martin Somerville was awesome. This backcourt is just really good and really talented, and they can all shoot. Robert McRae hit a shot from the old FSU logo. Like if they still had that big logo, it would have been a logo shot. He played phenomenal. He may not get 17 combined assists in his next 3 games. That's how absurd that kind of game is.
It was cool to see too in the locker room afterward, them celebrating, throwing water on him and everything. Kind of tell that that locker room has bought into Laux. Still a long season. I think, like you said, we'll talk about that Florida game. We're going to learn a lot more. That's that kind of mentality you got to have going into a game like that. Learn about what your team is going to be. But right now you can tell that team likes playing for Laux. And I think too, he's also younger as well. Can kind of relate a little bit more to them.
A lot easier to relate when he's 35 years old.
And just came from some, a successful spot there with the Golden State Warriors, of course, too, with Sacramento. But specifically, man, I mean, you talk about the Warriors, that is a fun ass team to watch as well. That's what brought me into watching them a ton. And Steph Curry, Draymond Green at the time, Klay Thompson. Just super fun. And, he had his time there, but we'll see. But yeah, like you said, a lot of points were scored, 100 plus.
And they could have had more. They left some points on the board. Like Tomas Bisson was 2 of 5 from the free throw line, which I'm sure he's probably running gassers right about now because of that. He runs them after they miss free throws. He is hard on them about free throws. And they went like 68% last night, which granted, most of those are Bisson missing. And I should have talked more about Bisson because I said about it in my recap last night. He has ACC Defensive Player of the Year potential. He is freaky defensively. Like when they threw him out there to start pressing people, it just completely shut down possessions. They got multiple 10-second counts, multiple steals because he was out there, multiple deflections. He is ridiculous on the defensive end. He's raw on offense. Like he missed a couple easy layups that, hopefully they can develop him for those. But defensively, he is
nice.
He's ridiculous.
That's what we like. That's what we like.
Really,
You're gonna need a lot of that too.
This team, I mean, they should just be getting better and better throughout the season. Only 2 guys coming back. Obviously, learning that style that Luke Laux wants to bring to Florida State. And, it seems like they already are developing that chemistry and really enjoying playing alongside one another. So it could be a fun year in Tallahassee to watch this basketball team in the Tuck.
I mean, just think about how easy it is for really any player. Like every player on that team has a green light, and that just gives everyone so much confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chauncey Wiggins was just throwing shit up there. And granted, it went in half the time, but that gives you so much confidence. Where last year you watched Chauncey Wiggins, you're like, what is he doing? Clemson didn't really know how to use him.
Now, for like fans that are trying to understand what are we talking about for Laux? Like, why is it allowing for them to score so much? Is it because of the scheme that he likes to run, the style that he's running, where it's a whole 180 from what you had previously with Hamilton? It's
just so much pace. Like, let me load up KenPom. I can't believe I'm not logged in. Sorry.
Unreal.
Their average possession length was 13 and a half seconds.
Jeez.
On offense. Like that is ridiculously fast. Considering you have 10 seconds to get the ball past half court, for your offensive possessions to be 13 to 14 seconds is crazy. The national average is 16, 17 in that range. And they're a few seconds quicker than that. They're just getting up the floor, getting the easy shots. And even if it's not easy, they're at least getting an open shot. I mean, there's a lot of times where Florida State's running transition, they're pulling up for 3. Leonard Hamilton would have yelled someone for doing that last year and the last few years. With Laux, he is encouraging this because he knows this team can do that, and he wants to play fast. I mean, you have someone like Robert McRae who can just spray the ball over the floor to whoever, might as well.
Mm-hmm. So they're probably, Laux is setting them up to where, hey, boom, it's a quick possession, but something's being set up quickly to go and take those shots. It's not like, hey, I'm going down there, I'm just shoot real quick, but there's something being set up.
And part of it in college basketball is defenses don't want to play too far past the 3-point line. They have the shooters to make them pay for that this year. They haven't had that ever at Florida State. Like, like you would have PJ Savoy and you'd have some of these other guys, but when you have a full team of them, it's a lot different.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, going to be a fun season, it seems like. Got a game this upcoming Friday as well for you guys. So go hit the Tuck if you haven't yet. And then a big test, of course, against the Florida Gators. We'll have all kinds of content for you guys at NoleGameday.com, including the Spear as the season continues. Thank you guys for tuning in this week for our Florida State versus Clemson preview. Got tons of content still coming for you guys all on that front as well. Safe travels to anybody going up there to South Carolina. See you guys up there, and y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. Hit the like button down below. Hit that subscribe button. We would definitely appreciate it, but y'all have a great rest of y'all's week, and we'll talk to you guys on Saturday evening after Florida State at Clemson. Peace.